Hey, medical class. This is Dr. Hovan. He's going to talk to you about what he does. This is absolutely fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for coming back. I guess you didn't have far to go, being you're probably in your office right now.
I didn't have far to go at all. Man, I'm telling you, it was crazy because I've been looking forward to getting in front of your class for a long time. If no other reason that last time I was there, Dr. Ramos followed me up and he threw me under the bus. Do you remember that? When he goes, hey, did Dr. Hovan say this and this and this? Let me tell you how it really is. So, I need another bite at the apple, only this time I'm here before him. So, all's good.
And you know what's nice? He said he doesn't want to do it this year. So you could say you have free reign. He has no repercussions.
That's right. I'm going to lay him out. Yeah, actually, I know that based on his schedule, he told me to make sure that I tell you guys that he's really sorry that he can't be here. He wanted to be here, but his travel schedule is ridiculous. He's gone this week, and then now through basically the end of October, he's wiped out. So, he definitely told me to say best of luck to you guys. He understands the grit where you're at now and would only say, here's what he would tell you. If you could have Dr. Joe Ramos, some of you know who he is from maybe last year or you've heard about other things, whatnot, but he would say these things. So I'll give you the Dr. Ramos speech as well. Be willing to do whatever it takes, think big, and be willing to work harder than you ever thought you had to or that you think other people will. That if you put that into a nutshell, that will get you what you want. And of course, Dr. Ramos is a medical doctor, trauma specialist, and an attorney. So he's at the top of the food chain with respect to work ethic and grit. So anyway, looking forward to today and just being able to share time with you guys. And hopefully this leads you to at least a new school of thought on different types of healthcare, whether it be alternative, mainstream, allopathic, et cetera, et cetera. So really looking forward to it, Scott.
Chris.
Did I say Scott? Oh, God.
That's going to be the first question I'll ask the kids.
Yeah. Anyway, I know a Scott Stirrup, interestingly enough. Believe it.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
So my apologies there.
No, not at all.
So what do you think? Should we go about this talking about how you go about a conservative healthcare program? Do you think the kids would like to learn about that kind of stuff, or do you want to go right into the practice? You want to talk about anything about business? What do you think would make the biggest impact for these folks?
Well, let's hear about, being a chiropractor first, and then what brought you to what you're doing now, I think would be just a wonderful conversation.
Oh man. Well, I'm telling you now, Chris, this is no joke. This is no joke. When I was in high school, actually from the time I could remember talking, my dad used to say, I want you to be a doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer. But my dad was a dock worker who then went to real estate, right? So I'm thinking, and of course, as you're growing up, you're a teenager and you're going, I don't want to listen to my parents. So I had no intention of being a doctor or a lawyer. Well, when I am a junior year, same age as a lot of the kids who might be watching this, I was on the football team at our high school, and I ended up getting hurt in a practice. And so what had happened was I took in a practice and I put my head down on a tackle in a drill that we were doing. And so I ended up on the ground, neck pain, couldn't move for just a second. I thought, holy crap. Well, then that went away and I got up and so one of my teammates said, hey, you should go see a chiropractor. Well, my dad was seeing a chiropractor and sent me in there. And it wasn't long after that where I had told him, I said, look, I don't want any drugs and I don't want any surgery and I don't want any shots. I don't want any of that. And he goes, well, you're in luck because that's not what we do here. The way we take care of the body is that we let essentially the muscles heal, and we know that joints get stuck. And when joints don't move, there's no way that then the corresponding parts of the body can move well. And at the end of the day, the brain talks to the body through the nervous system. So he said, when you have a system of health and wellness that connects the brain, the muscles, the joints, and the organs through the nervous system, that's what we do. And I said, I'm in. Well, it turns out that year was really special. He got me back on the field again. And so while this happened early in the season, ended up getting a chance to play in a state championship football game that we won. And so I couldn't have been more grateful to my chiropractor. And his name was Dr. Baird. And one day during an English class, so I was at school and our English teacher's assignment was, I want you to tell us what you might want to do as a career, and I want you to write about it. Okay. So I happened to have an appointment that day. When I went in, the chiropractor says, hey, what do you, what do you wanted? How was school today? And I said, well, I had this assignment. And the assignment was this teacher saying, what do you want to write about what you want to do? And he goes, you should be a chiropractor. And literally it hit me where I was like, what? I've been treated. I'm feeling better. I can be a doctor of people and help them and give no drugs, no surgeries, no shots. Count me in. So literally I was so blessed and fortunate that as a junior in high school, I knew that it was, that's what I was called to do. And so then it was just a matter of finding out what classes I needed to take, what did I need to do. And it certainly wasn't an easy path for me because, I had to struggle with the sciences. Physics was tough for me. Chemistry was tough for me. And organic it was craziness. But I had no plan B. You know what I mean? Like I certainly don't know how to fix cars. I don't know how to do computer stuff. So for me, it was like, I have to find a way to overcome these obstacles of some of these courses to get where I need to get. So I was really blessed in that way to have plan A only, and it was in my heart. And I knew that all I needed to do was whatever it took.
Very good. You had a football injury similar to mine, but I didn't go to the chiropractor. I wound up in the back of an ambulance.
Oh, man. What happened?
Well, so it was during linebacker practice, during our two-a-days down in Tempe, Arizona. It's about 116 degrees. They used to reward us with water. So, it was brutal. And a guy named Brian Hooks, who at the time was 6'6", 340 pounds.
Hey, that's a little bigger than you.
Yeah, I was 220 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I was still 5'9". I didn't grow or shrink. So he came through the number 3 slot, and I said, "Here we go." And he's coming at me like a freight train. And at the very last second, I dropped my helmet, and I got the ultimate of ultimate stingers. I was face down on the ground, and it felt like, when you hit your funny bone and your 2 fingers get fiery hot.
Yes.
My arms and legs were that.
Ooh.
And I'm like screaming. I'm like, don't move. They had to cut my football helmet off. They had me on this neck brace on this flat board in the back of an ambulance. And by the time we're there, I start kicking my legs going, oh my gosh, they're so hot, they burn. I'm kicking, I'm flailing around. They're trying to hold me down. So stop it, I have your neck injury.
Oh, Chris, no way.
Fortunately, it was just enough of an injury that if I turn my head certain ways every now and then, I get that little ping of pain that comes flying down my spine. But Doc told me flat out, he goes, look, pal, you ain't big enough, strong enough, or fast enough to play football. You're done. And I'm like, but I made varsity.
Yeah. And that was the end. Was that the end of it?
That was done. But at least the gentleman who took me out of the equation, he went and played for Arizona State. Then he got drafted by the Vikings. And so at least I can say somebody who played for the NFL took me out of the equation.
Well, you know what? That's amazing. And what a horrible but yet amazing story, because it helped shape you for who you are today and the things that you're doing for this class and these kids. Just like what happened to me. And I think that's an important lesson that we can all take, that there are no accidents if we look at it like that. Like if we look at it like everything happens for a reason and we don't always understand it. And now, we'll get into what I do now eventually here, but it was football and it was an injury that took me into chiropractic, and it has been the most incredible journey that I can imagine. And I'll tell you, when it comes to what's called CAM, which means complementary and alternative medicine, chiropractic is kind of what people might consider at the top of the pyramid or food chain of that particular section of medicine, because at this point in time, chiropractic is really integrated with our medical teams. So tons of chiropractors are on sports teams now, but we have a role, right? So we do a lot of the musculoskeletal stuff with the manipulation of the joints, also known as adjusting, chiropractic adjusting. Then we work with the physical therapists who are doing a lot of rehab. We work with orthopedists who are looking for more extensive damage, where we might actually help them understand the injury and then send it to them if it's more extensive. So different kinds of surgeons, working with now primary care docs all the time, so that it helps everyone focus in a lane. And the great thing about chiropractic too, besides the musculoskeletal work. So we're really known for those of you watching this that maybe have been to a chiropractor, you've probably been for neck pain, headaches, back pain. It might be for an extremity. So like I got my diplomate in sports injuries and in acupuncture, a certification in acupuncture. So I really spent a lot of time working with athletes over my, I've been in practice almost 30 years now. And it's been fantastic. But I'll tell you, there's a whole nother section of chiropractic as well that's really exciting. And that's on things like functional medicine. So how do you use nutritional supplements and different sorts of herbs and those kinds of things to assist the body in the healing process? Because here's one thing I know. The body doesn't need a lot of help in healing. We're born healers, but what happens is we get interferences with our body's natural ability to heal, right? So think about this. The more junk you eat, the less sleep you get, the more out of shape you are. Those are all breaking the rules of a healthy life. Mm-hmm. And so like any game, the more rules you break, the more penalties you take, the harder it is to win. And so what we believe as a profession is that life is about the more rules of health that you keep, the healthier you will be. So for example, the better you eat, which means not having a bunch of sugary, high carb, high fat loaded stuff, but instead understand that eating a sensible diet with a good amount of fruits, vegetables, lean meats and proteins, maybe some keto type stuff, depending on what's going on. That's one rule, that the more you play, you win. The more water you take in, and we would like that to be about half your body weight in ounces every day. You get that. That's another rule that you're keeping. The amount of sleep. We should be getting somewhere as adults, 7 to 8 hours of sleep for most of us. The more you break that, the more you suffer. And one of the things that's interesting that I just love is the essential nutrient. And for those of you who have had a nutrition class, what are essential nutrients? They're those that the body cannot make on its own. So Chris, when we take when we take vitamin C, we can get vitamin C from all these different places, right? But there are some vitamins that the body can't make, so we got to get them from the outside. That's essential. There's an essential nutrient for our brain, and that essential nutrient is movement. Mm-hmm. How cool is that? It's movement. And so it's movement through the joints. Because here's the thing, I actually happen to have my companion here. This is spine. And the way that this sits is, and I'm sure most of the students will have seen this, but this is the pelvis. And then this is called the lumbar spine. It's made up of 5 vertebrae. I'm showing it to you from the side. The thoracic spine is in the mid-back and it curves the opposite way. And then finally the neck, called the cervical spine, is 7 bones and it curves back up this way. So I don't know if I can get it all in here, but it would look something like this on a full scale view. And now the interesting thing is the brain would sit up here and it's covered with the skull, and then going right down the center or the top, that's going to be your spinal cord. So when people say that they've been paralyzed because of spinal cord injury, what that means is they get hit in the head or something happens and they whiplash through, and there's a fracture in one of these bones to the point that it cuts those nerves, so that now the brain can't send the message anywhere past the break. So wherever the brain gets hammered, if it's here or if it's down here, wherever it might be, wherever those nerves go below the break, they don't get the message through. So that's how far you become paralyzed. So, you could be paralyzed from here, you could be paralyzed from the waist, you could be paralyzed all the way. And so at a much lesser level, these joints that are like right here, right there, that's one of these spinal joints called a facet joint. They go all the way down each of the 24 vertebrae. There's one on each side. Those bad boys have a bunch of receptors in them. And so when you move, so full range of motion is really important through your exercises, through what you're doing. That's why sitting is called the new smoking, because we're not getting movement through these joints. That movement, Chris, that movement is going to allow information to go through those receptors up to the brain. And then the brain goes, oh, here's what's going on in my body. Mm-hmm. This is what we need to do. Because if the brain senses something's not right, the brain sends out a message. But imagine if these receptors aren't getting information up because the bone is stuck. So when these 2 segments are stuck and they're not moving, then those receptors can't possibly send the information up, because they only get through motion the information in the receptors. So bad information in means stress information out. So the body goes, I'm not getting what I need here. I'm going to send down a stress response, which could be tight muscles, decreased range of motion, increased breathing. All right, all these things can be created by a lack of communication from the outside environment into the brain. So what we do as a profession that I think is amazing and unique to us is we introduce movement along with then the other lifestyle factors. So whether it be rest or nutrition or all these other things. And chiropractic is a beautiful medicine because you can specialize. Like, again, I have a sports injuries diplomate, so I did a lot of sports in my time with teams and that kind of stuff. But then I got certified in acupuncture. So now I could work with that system, with the energetic system. I also got certified to do allergy elimination techniques using an acupuncture derivative. So it's a beautiful way if you're looking for something that's alternative to a baseline health. Now here's the great thing too, that true chiropractic, in the modern age, isn't chiropractic fixes everything, because there has been a group in time that has said, look, all you need is two things, love and chiropractic, right? The Beatles talked about love and the schools are talking about chiropractic. But what I've found now is the best approach, and especially we can talk about it when we get into what I do now, is basically a diverse group where people are looking at different things and using the different systems of the body in order to get the best outcomes. So literally, as far as, I don't know if they might have some other questions to students about chiropractic, Chris, or what you think, but we can certainly go deeper into it if you want.
Yeah, well, I have a question. So part of my exercise routine that is, up to about 5, maybe 6 times during a week, if it's a really awesome week, I do stretch. That's, I do my cardio first, then I get a good stretch in. But one of the things I love during my stretch, and if you tell me this is bad for me, it's going to break my heart. But there are these styrofoam rollers. They're
Foam rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love it. But is that okay for me? Or, I mean, I see them everywhere now.
They are incredible. In fact, there's a whole treatment system, and I've built it into my personal treatment protocols called IASTM, which that's the letter pronunciations for instrument assisted soft tissue manipulation. So IASTM. And so there's foam rollers is a big part of that. And I use a foam roller virtually every day. Also lacrosse balls. You see lacrosse balls everywhere, especially in the CrossFit community. Mm-hmm. That's a huge, huge place where foam rolls and lacrosse balls beat. Now there's also these tools that you can get. They're percussive instruments. So you might think of a jigsaw, and it moves really fast, and you can put that on any of the muscles, and then depending on how you do it, you can either have the muscle stationary, or you can put it, let's say, on a forearm. You put that here, and then you make the forearm move. You can see how my forearm's moving like this. Well, when you put that under tension and under load with percussion, that then creates a dramatic relaxation. There's distraction modality. So yeah, IASTM, I'm a huge fan. And so for me as a provider, I look at this. I look at mobility of the joints, whether it's spine or extremity, and that's the adjustment portion. And then I look at the surrounding soft tissues, and then I look at the skin. So the reason that I do that, and again, not every chiropractor is the same, but when you look at where those receptors, and they're called proprioceptors or mechanoreceptors, they're kind of an interchangeable term, with proprioceptors being the more modern term. There's a ton of them in those joints that I showed you in the spine. But Chris, there's also a bunch of these mechanoreceptors or proprioceptors also in the muscles and in the skin. So for me as a treating doc, if I want to get the most bang for my buck out of any treatment, I'm going to affect those receptors in every way I can. Because remember, what the receptors do is they take the information to the brain, right? So if I can get reception information going up from the skin, that's where I use that tape. And I don't know if you've seen the kinesiology tape, rock tape. I used to teach for rock tape, so that's my brand of choice. Mm-hmm. And so that stimulates the skin receptors. Then the deep tissue work, cupping, you've seen the cupping, especially at the Olympics when Michael Phelps had all the hickey-looking bruise spots on him. Yeah. That's cupping. That now stimulates receptors in the skin. But then the deep tissue work is going to get muscle, compressive tissue work with muscle tools, foam rolls, lacrosse balls. That's all compression, but there's receptors in those muscles. And then you incorporate that finally with movement, right? So like bending, squatting, pressing, pulling, those kinds of things, all that stimulates reception. So for me, what you're doing, absolutely. You put the cardio, resistance training, and then the foam rolling with your stretching, great combination for staying healthy.
Oh, I appreciate you saying it's good because boy, it feels so good. And
Oh, Chris, that's great.
and you know, I know that it's part of just getting. I'll be 50 in December, and I've seen a lot of my friends who they aren't as active as they have been, boy, and they're just as unhealthy as they can be. And I figure this: if the more limber I can be by stretching and exercising, it makes me feel good. So I'm glad that those are okay to use because if you said no, I'd go home, be a little teared up because
No way, man. You're on point. And I'll tell you, Chris, you said something that has nothing to do with chiropractic, but everything to do with health, that if I could get one message in on health to every person watching this, it would be this. Have you heard of compound interest? And if you know what compound interest is in the sense of investing, it means this. You put in $1 today, and over time, that dollar pays dividends, so it's worth more than $1. So compound interest on your money, for a quick example, if people, and I would tell classes this, and I taught my kids this, that by the math, if you could earn 10% per year on your money, all right, so we're going away from health for a minute, but just for the sake of a compound interest example, if you could earn 10% on your money when you were 19 years old, and call 20 years old, if you put in $2,000 a year, not a month, a year into an account from 20, 21, 22, if you did that through 29, it means you would have done it for a decade. And then you never put in another dime. So if you did that 10 years, $2,000 a year, all of us math whizzes here even know that that's $20,000. That $20,000, because of compound interest, when you're 65, comes it up to over $700,000, right? Well, the same thing is true of health. It's a compound interest game one way or another. So if we are doing the things that lead to health now, like you said, I'm 52, right? So I remember when I turned 50, I feel a lot of the same things. And as I get older, my contemporaries who haven't invested in their health, that just let it go. The unfortunate thing that I've seen with health is when people are in high school, they're athletes and they can get away with eating junk because they don't understand. And it's so easy to get and it's so much cheaper than health food and convenient and whatever. So now you don't train anymore. Your metabolism starts to slow down. You're eating crap. You get the stress of real life on you. All these things start a downward cycle so that now when you're 35, 45, 55, and who knows when, now you've got chronic illness, right? You've got diabetes, you've got high blood pressure, you've got all these things that lead to cancer. So if I could give one tip about health, it would be this. Understand how valuable what you do today is when you're my age. If you could somehow put in perspective, and when I was in your seat, I couldn't put it in perspective because 50 seemed a whole long ways away. But I'll tell you, the last 30 some years, I don't know where it went, but yet here we are. Thank God I had some mentors in my life and I had some activities in my life that kept me understanding it's a compound interest game and that just consistency over time. And you can use that with your studies too. If you want to be a medical provider of any kind, whether it's from a surgeon, a chiropractor, GP, massage therapist, acupuncturist, it doesn't matter. That time is going to go by. And so all of you right now, you're committed to at least thinking about the process of going into healthcare. And I applaud you because we need great healthcare providers. But if you start getting to the point where, organic chemistry is rough or whatever these are, just know this, the time is going to go by anyway. If it's a 5-year training program, an 8-year training program, that time is going to go by. And so then you just got to ask yourself, is it worth it for you to put in the effort, do the work to get there? Because once that 8 years is gone or the 5 years is gone, then where are you going to be? So you might as well be where you want to be. And if that's not in medicine, this is a great example. My son wanted to follow in my footsteps and go into healthcare. And I told him, look, to be a chiropractor, you need to have a certain mindset, a certain skill set, and a certain desire, because it's not, you're not in hospitals getting patients fed to you. You have to want to treat people and be willing to go get them and be willing to take care of people. It's just a little different mindset than being in a hospital, right? And so he said, well, maybe I want to be a DO. And I'm like, right on, man, be a DO. I know tons of DOs. I had him go do internships and everything was great. And at the end of the day, he saw what was going on and he said, if I'm going to be a DO, I need to take some business classes. And so I think I'm going to take a semester of business. And through that semester, you know what he found? That economics is his true heart's passion, to make a difference through that side of things. And so literally the healthcare journey that he was on changed into where his heart passion took him. So there's no shame in finding your path, whatever that is. And I think that takes us to a great point now. And maybe Chris, we can come back to, but for the sake of whatever time we have, now what I do, I don't treat patients on a regular basis. I actually run 2 businesses that Dr. Ramos owns. One is Ramos Law. You may or may not have heard of it, but we do predominantly law for people who have been injured in car crashes and need to get their medical bills paid. So we do a lot of that. And then we do workers' comp, which is another type of injury, and some business law and employment law. And so because of my background of having treated thousands of patients, tons of car crash patients, having done a lot of leadership training and having worked in a group where we built 400 chiropractic practices nationwide over a 10-year period, it was a good fit for me to come in to be able to speak with the doctors of any profession. In fact, I was just on the phone with a neurologist, concussion specialist right before I jumped on this call. And we had a great conversation about head trauma, head injury, the different medical legal aspects of it. And all of that comes into play. So the point being, my path has changed so that now I get a chance to help patients every day by explaining to them, what does your injury mean? What does your headache mean? When that doctor gives you a diagnosis of spinal stenosis, what does that mean? But then I can also go to the doctors and I can say, hey guys, guess what? Here's what the insurance coverages are on this case. And here's what this means. And here's what your client, your patient is saying that they don't understand. So now I get to use all of these different skills as well as developing the team. We have 60 people that are on our team here, and I get a chance to work with them to help them be the best that they can be. So it's been healthcare. I would never go back and not do a healthcare journey ever, 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 even though I'm not in healthcare. And again, I take care of the 60 people here. I take care of my family and friends through my chiropractic training, and I still do some teaching now and again. But holy cow, healthcare has been the biggest blessing of my life. And it's taken me to places I never thought it would and helped me meet people that I never would have otherwise. So it's been an amazing journey.
Wow. So, I not to say too, my journey is taking me all around, the Southwest is teaching, and, I've come now to where I found I'm at home. This is a very comfortable building that I'm in, and they allow me to do things, like with this class, and, you find your happiness, what makes you happy. And I couldn't be happier being here at this school. And what's funny is I actually work harder, longer hours here than I did in other schools. But when I was down in Douglas County, because of how they were really oppressing teachers and putting really bad stuff on teachers, they put me on heart medication. I had high blood pressure. I moved here to this school, and I go to the doctor, and, if I go every year to get a physical done, he takes my blood pressure and he said, lay down. I said, what? And he takes my blood pressure. He cut my blood pressure medication, and he goes, I want to see you in 3 months. Cut it in half again. 3 months later, off blood pressure medication. I mean, just because I found my happy. This community had welcomed this program and me with open arms. They've been so supportive. And I don't have these outside weird pressures that I didn't think I was necessarily having, but there was awful lot of bad things that were taking place in Douglas County at the time, where had nothing to do with teaching kids. It was just justifying what you're actually doing as a teacher. But I love the fact that I'm off medication now. I'm like, yes.
Thank goodness. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you bring up such an important point, Chris, with respect to all of us, me included, in understanding what does bring you joy. And that comes from self-awareness. So another thing for anyone watching this, and again, you guys are at the beginning of your journey, but start learning who you are as a person, as a human, what really makes you happy. Because you can find happiness if you truly do want to be in healthcare. There's so many ways to go. So don't go by what the common policy says, or don't go for just the money, because you can make money in any healthcare discipline that you do, but you can also go broke in any healthcare discipline. There are plenty of surgeons that got addicted to drugs, got all kinds of trouble, and no matter how much money they make, it ain't enough. It ain't enough to get through with all that their legal bills are and all that their divorce bills are and all the rest of it. And while there are some surgeons that are happy and make a crap ton of money and do amazing things, there are some chiropractors that are happy and make a crap ton of money and do some amazing things. There's some PTs that are happy and make a crap ton of money, but understanding what makes you happy, what drives your soul, to me, that's where it's at, regardless of the profession. Because when you find that calling, just like what you were talking about, your happy place, your happy space, then going to work, while it is still work, you find more joy. And at the end of most days, and nothing is like this 1,000% of the time, but most days when you've done your good work, when you come home fulfilled, you're more filled up at the end and you sleep so good.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I definitely recommend for anyone out there, unless you really know what you want to do right now, which to me, it's, I was blessed to know that when I was about the age that you guys are, what I wanted to do. But for many of you, taste a lot of these things, right? Go shadow different kinds of providers. Go see what the other side, whatever that means, looks like, and just spend a little time. If you think you want to be a dentist, but you hate not talking to people, then that might not be the right choice for you, because you have your hand in their mouth and there's not a lot to say. So, those kinds of things that you might not think about when you're saying, I want to be a blank, put a little time into it and find a mentor too. That's another thing that I would say. See if you can find someone who's trod the path that you're looking for, that's willing to invest in you. And even that, if that investment is, hey, this isn't the right path, I promise you it will be well worth it for you and for them. People that love to share, love to be mentors. So, that would be another piece of advice I might have.
Great advice. Well, what brought you to what you do now?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Ramos.
So when we had built I was with a company called Health Source, and it was a chiropractic franchise. And when I got there, there were 6 clinics all in Cleveland. And so I knew the owner because we were in a group together, and that group's mission was to essentially get 12 offices in each state, where one person or one group owned 12 offices in each state. And then that whole thing was going to be sold or taken public, what's called an IPO. That was supposed to happen. Well, over time, like any good thing, the leadership drives every organization. Well, the leadership of that organization started to fall south, and so we all disbanded. Well, the person from Ohio and I were friends, and so he asked me what I was doing one day. We were talking, he goes, what are you doing? And I had 5 clinics with a partner. And I said, man, I'm just looking for something, I don't know, something maybe a little bit different. He goes, well, I'm trying to grow this thing nationwide, and I could sure use your help. So I went down and checked it out, and through that process, decided to move away from my 5 clinics, jump into that. And so over the next 10 years, we went from 6 clinics to 402 to be exact, 37 states. We did some amazing things in that process, but like everything else, everything falls and rises on leadership. And there were some changes. There were 4 of us that ran that company, and there were some changes that just it just wasn't going to work for me any longer, because I was in town in Denver, they were in Cleveland, and it just, it just wasn't working anymore. In the meantime, Dr. Ramos knew, because when I had my 5 clinics, Dr. Ramos had 12 clinics, but 2 of them were together. So we shared 2 clinics. And so he had said, Jim, if you're looking for something, I want to expand our law firm. I want to do bigger things. We want to go into multiple states. Plus, you understand the law, you understand the medicine, you understand leadership and training. So when the opportunity came, I jumped at it. I could be at home all the time. And now we have offices in Arizona as well, and we're looking at a couple other states. And so it was just a chance for me to utilize the skills that I had developed over the past, the previous 18 years, in order to really try to just continue to make a positive impact. So that's how I ended up here.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So are you a lawyer, or do you just work for the law firm, and in what capacity?
So I am not an attorney. I am strictly a chiropractor, but again, just after having opened so many practices and having coached so many practices and doing so much PI myself, I am the official title is the director of operations for the firm. And interestingly enough, Dr. Ramos owns several different businesses and companies. And another one that we have together is called FitMD. And what FitMD is it's a bioidentical hormone replacement therapy clinic. So if you've heard of people with, the low T centers and Rocky Mountain Men's Health and all those kinds of things. So we do that where you put a natural based hormone therapy, estrogen and progesterone for women and testosterone for men. And then we do medical weight loss. And so we put those two things together, and our whole slogan is live optimized. So I split my time between running the law firm business with the key executives, and then running the FitMD business. So I still have my hand in healthcare every day, and as well as with the legal side. So it's been, again, the chance for me, it's the dream job of a lifetime, because I'm getting to use all my skills, still be an owner of a business, still help people grow, still help people get healthy. And so, yeah, I'm really living the dream right now.
Wow, that's cool. You found your happy place. I like
Found
that.
my happy place. Yeah. And there's no shortcut. I mean, I still work a boatload, probably more than some people would like, i.e. my wife. But, we have a great partnership in that way as well. And the work, you're in the right place, I think, Chris, when the work drives you. And we talked about this a little earlier, when the work fills you. And now, whether I'm talking to a patient at the FitMD clinic, I'm talking to a client, I'm talking to a provider that we work with here, or I'm talking to an insurance company, all those things, because it gives me a chance to hopefully enhance the experience of that moment for that person. Man, it's all I could ask. And then to still keep my license and be able to adjust all the team and family and friends. Yeah, I can't imagine having it better right now.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So Dr. Ramos won't be here to defend himself. So what should we know about Dr. Ramos? I know he grew up in the absolute smallest town in the state of Nevada, where there's more people between you and I right now than are probably in that town. I think it's Gabbs, Nevada. I believe those.
Yeah, it was Austin, Nevada, and a tiny place. And his story is so incredible. I wish I had a bunch of dirt to throw on the guy, but unfortunately I can't. He's my unicorn friend, where he's incredibly smart, incredibly talented. He's incredibly driven, incredibly hardworking. Seems like he can succeed at anything he does, and he has. Doesn't mean he hasn't taken his fair of kicks in the gut and setbacks along the way, but it's no obstacle is ever not able to be overcome in his mind, so he always finds a way. But what makes me the happiest about him is he's a nicer human being. He's a better man than all those other things. And so, yeah, I definitely want to throw him under the bus since he can't defend himself, but there's not really much for me to do that with. But, yeah, he's great to work with. He's a great partner. He's a great friend. And just the chance to be in his wake, you know what I mean? Like in his sphere, it fills me up too. And I remember telling him, I said, dude, I just want to be around someone like you who loves what they do, who loves coming to work, who's inspired, because that's the kind of person I am. And I want to be with others like that. I don't want the negativity. And so it's been a match made in heaven, really, the last over 3.5 years together.
That's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What else anything else? We got about 10 minutes. What else would you like to talk about?
Well, I would say I came up with this little formula, and I think it's something, I think I shared it with the audience last time, literally right after it happened. And I've had now a year to mess with it, and I think it still holds true. And essentially, here's what I found. People always ask me, hey, because I get a chance to, people will say, hey, I consider you an example or a mentor or something. And I don't ever put myself in that position, but people ask me a lot, what does it take to be successful? Or what have you done in the past that you've seen worked? And so I had a chance to talk to the Adams County kids last year in their Backpacks to Briefcases program, where it's all juniors and seniors. And so this thing hit me because I knew these questions were going to come. And so I literally put it in a formula. And you guys are all, incredibly smart kids. You have you're incredibly blessed to go to school in the environment that you guys have, COVID notwithstanding. Sorry that you guys are going through this, by the way, especially you seniors at your senior year going like this seems a little wonky, and I'm sorry, but you're such a blessed, fortunate group of young folks that I hope this helps you. So here's this little formula, and essentially, if I had to put it into a simplistic way, it would be that your actions plus your attitude multiplied by the consistency of your actions and attitudes equals your results. So if you want to look at it in the simplest broken down form, AC plus AD multiplied by C equals R. So that might be something for you to write down and think about. But here's how it works. Anything that you want to look at, that's your R, that's your result. And you can look at it from one of two ways. One is the result I currently am experiencing, right? So what's your grade in XYZ class? What's your relationship with your parents? What's your fitness level? How good are you at the sport that you play? Or how good are you at your drama or your chess or whatever? That you could be saying, now, right now, why am I achieving this result? Let's use the formula. Analyze this on a scale of -10 to 10. -10 to 10. How would you rate your actions against the result that you're currently getting? If you're just use athletics here. If you're a top level athlete performing at the highest levels, you're probably training every day. You're probably watching film. You're probably reading books. You're probably getting coaching. In fact, you're probably getting extra ground training or speed and strength explosion training. All those are actions. So let's say you rate those as a 10. And then the next thing, so that explains your result. And your result, your top performer, what's your attitude? Maybe your attitude's an 8. And then you say, how consistently are you doing that? Your top performer, your consistency is probably also around an 8. So if you take 10 plus 8, that's 18, and multiply that times 8, I don't know what that is, but if it were multiplied by 10, that'd be 180. That's a high score because the max that you can get is 220. So that's going to mean a big result. On the other side, if your result is showing you're getting a D in your class, now let's go back to that. What actions are you taking? Are you studying enough? Are you asking for help? Are you going to a tutor? Are you, are you making sure you're getting enough sleep? All these things that go into that. List out all the actions and then say, what's my attitude? My attitude, I had a problem with my attitude towards school because it didn't come easy for me in the math and sciences. And holy crap, I had to go through all the math and sciences. And so when I thought I wasn't smart enough, I'm never going to get through this. By the way, Chris, I got to tell you this story. I don't think I told it before. When I decided after getting that injury, I was going to be a chiropractor, it was funny because I told everybody, I'm going to chiropractic school. I'm a junior in high school. And in my junior year, I'm taking trig. I'm taking a trig class. And I went to a really small private Christian school, right? And so we had just won a state championship. All's good. We won single A state. And we were going through a process. And I'm in this trig class. And I couldn't get through it. I was literally having to get help every day from the valedictorian of our class and some other people to help me understand the homework. And the homework was what helped me pass the class because I sucked on the test. And so the teacher, Chris, believe this or not, the teacher looks at me and says, Mr. Hovan, you can't even pass this trig class. How are you ever going to be a doctor? Like he just took my dreams and crunched it in a ball and threw it in the trash can. Wow. Now, thankfully, my way was at first I was disappointed. And then I'm like, screw that. You don't put that on me. You don't know me. Right. And so I was able to use it as fuel, but man, was I wounded. I was wounded by that. And so to those of you who you got to believe, you have to believe. And sometimes whether it's, Mr. Stirrup or your mentors or anybody else, sometimes we have to fill in the gap to give you a little more confidence, courage, whatever, until you get your own. So look for those positive people in your life. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to stand up and say, I can do this. I got it. So anyway, if you have bad grades, your actions are low, your attitude is low, and your consistency of those things is bad, guess what? You're going to have a low score. Hence, that's the deal. So that's if you want to check out where you are. Now let's flip it and say, I want to be this. I want to be this great athlete. I want to be a great student. I want to be in a great relationship. Now list out all the actions that you need, that you need to accomplish that goal. List out the attitude, the things that you need to do and how you need to go about your business, right? Because life is about how you go about your business. List all those out and then list your consistency. And I will tell you this, if you'll do the actions and attitudes, that's going to get you on our scale of 220, that's going to get you to somewhere around, the best you can get, 10 plus 10 is 20. That's the best you can get out of a possible 220. So it's not about the actions and the attitudes unless you haven't started yet. But here's the multiplier. That XC, that multiplied by consistency, that's where the gold lives. So you can do anything. Like right now, for example, I see people that they go train physically, right? They train physically. Once a month for an hour or 2 hours, they get sore and then they don't do anything. On the other side, I know people that here's my routine: do a dog walk in the morning for 30 to 60 minutes, and then go do some high intensity interval training for 30 to 60 minutes. So I have somewhere between 1 hour and 2 hours into my day, and I always do it at the same time, consistent, and it works. It works for me. Now, whatever area you want to do, list the actions, list the attitudes, and then nail that consistency. And that one variable will take you farther than you can ever imagine. So hopefully that little formula helps. AC plus AD times C equals R.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so very much for this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop recording, but we'll still stay on in a minute. Okay. I got a couple questions I want to ask you that don't concern the medical class. So I'm stopping.